What's the voice in your head saying? Have you noticed it? Are you aware of it? Are you only aware of it when it's yelling and screaming and really driving you crazy? Do you ever hear it say soft and kind and supportive things? Did you know that you can train the voice in your head? You can train the voice in your head to be your biggest fan, to be your greatest support, and to scrape away some of those abrasive and negative thoughts. So I first came across the voice in your head, your inner critic, when I was watching a video and then reading some articles by Dr. Jim Loehr. He's a psychologist and sports coach. He essentially says that the brain listens to every single thing you say. So you can create your own obstacles and barriers, or you can create your own wins and successes. The tone and the content of the voice in your head, it's that voice that nobody else hears, but sometimes the way you come across or the way you talk to other people starts with the voice that's in your head. So it's your own coach. Your goal is to listen to that voice and to really understand, is this voice scolding or derogatory, sarcastic, blaming, self-deprecating? Is it a cynic? Is it what I call Eeyore syndrome? Whoa, woe is me. Today is a terrible day. Like, what is that voice that you hear? Or do you have a positive, supportive, uplifting, encouraging, and compassionate voice? You can create a voice that is positive, that guides you in the way that you would want to be guided, that you see other really great coaches and mentors guiding. You can make a constructive coach. The first thing that you can do is just be aware. It could be that in an everyday situation, you have a pretty good coach, but there are particular situations, maybe people you're around or an environment that you get into when that voice changes. And when you notice that, pay attention because that's where you can start to do your work. Dr. Jim Loehr says, imagine that you're in one of those big sports arenas where they have the huge speakers on the ceiling, and think of what the thoughts are in your head. Think of what it would be like if those thoughts were voiced over that speaker system and thousands of people could hear the thoughts in your head out loud on the speaker system. Would you be proud? Would you be embarrassed? So when you picture that, that helps you understand whether this voice is actually helpful to you or not, whether you've got a supportive voice or perhaps a negative voice. Sometimes we don't know. Listening to all sorts of messages and we collect them throughout life so they become this kind of ingrained, almost unnoticed pattern. So be able to pay attention and then evaluate it from this rubric of would I want other people to hear this out loud? And then make the determination about whether or not this is an appropriate voice for you. Is it helpful? Do you want to do something to modify it? If you do, the good news is you can train that inner voice. You can train your inner voice to not be a critic. So one thing is to find great coaches, to listen to their voice, to take on that tone and model that advice, that language, that approach. The other thing that Dr. Lair suggests is an activity where you write down and then read out loud to yourself how you want to sound. So figure out what the situation or when the inner critic comes and write down the next time I face that situation, I want to say to myself, and then you write down how you want to sound. You write down the outcome that you want, and then you read that. You read it out loud to yourself, and you edit it, and you do it again, and until you are noticing that when you get in that situation, you're able to face the situation and hear yourself say, oh, I've decided that I'm going to speak to myself differently. I'm holding myself accountable for better language in my own mind. And you will see that those situations come up and your critic will pause and you will say, wait a minute, thank you, but I've got this. We're going to talk this way. We're going to talk positive, reassuring, energetic, affirming language in our head. Your treatment of others is essentially your gold standard. This is Dr. Jim Loehr again. It is your gold standard. How you treat other people is how you're measured. And in order to be able to treat others well, you often have to start with yourself. Start with your inner voice.